Welcome everyone to my Mavuika kit overview. The Pyro Archon Mavuika is finally set to release. In this kit overview, I will go over Mavuika's kit and explain what she does, then go over her signature weapon and give some of my early thoughts on Mavuika. Keep in mind that many things are subject to change, so don't take everything at face value. But without further ado, let's go over her kit. Mavuika is a 5-star Pyro unit who has the ability to deal either on-field or off-field damage, and can also provide damage buffs to the active character. She scales on attack, wields a claymore, and has a crit damage ascension bonus. Her normal attacks deal 4 hits of physical damage and are not a major part of her kit, at least not in their regular form. Mavuika's elemental skill can be either tapped or held. Regardless of which form you use, using Mavuika's elemental skill, she deals Nightsoul aligned pyro damage and enters Nightsoul's blessing with 80 points. If Mavuika's skill is tapped, a ring will be formed, following the active character and dealing pyro damage at a 2-second interval. This ring will deal off-field Nightsoul aligned pyro damage to enemies within a 6-meter radius, which is similar to Bennett's Burst or Jean's Burst. The off-field pyro damage can also target multiple enemies at once, up to 10 enemies within the 6-meter radius. It can also target bloom cores and trigger Burgeon. This off-field pyro also doesn't have an internal cooldown, meaning that every hit should also apply pyro. Holding Mavuika's elemental skill will form a motorcycle of sorts and allow her to ride on top of it, increasing movement speed. Fittingly, as the Archon of Natlan, Mavuika in this state has the ability to cross water on her motorcycle the same way Mualani does, climb using her motorcycle like Chilonen or Kachina, and even fly like Chaska. During this state, Mavuika's normal, charged, and plunging attacks will be infused with pyro, dealing Nightsoul aligned pyro damage. This infusion cannot be overridden and has its own scaling tied to the elemental skill level. While Mavuika sprints on her motorcycle, she will also deal Nightsoul aligned pyro damage to opponents in her path. This skill has a cooldown of 15 seconds, and both the tap and hold versions of Mavuika's skill will last until her Nightsoul points run out. Mavuika's elemental burst does not rely on energy, and instead can be activated using Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit can be accumulated by either consuming Nightsoul points or hitting enemies with normal attacks. I'm not quite sure whether the Nightsoul points consumption is 1-to-1 with Fighting Spirit points, but assuming it is 1-to-1, with Chilonen for example, using her elemental skill and activating her samplers will consume 80 Nightsoul points, which would grant Mavuika 80 Fighting Spirit points, again assuming that it is 1-to-1. In the other case, when any party member hits an enemy using their normal attacks, Mavuika gains 1.5 Fighting Spirit points. The maximum number of Fighting Spirit points Mavuika can accumulate is 200, and to use her burst she would need at least 50% of her Fighting Spirit points, which is 100 points. Upon using her elemental burst, Mavuika will consume all Fighting Spirit points, ride her motorcycle, and enters the Nightsoul's blessing with 10 points, dealing an initial hit of Nightsoul aligned pyro damage, while also entering the Crucible of Death and Life state. Since Mavuika enters her Nightsoul's blessing through her burst in the motorcycle state, you can also use her normal attacks to deal Nightsoul aligned pyro damage. During the Crucible of Death and Life state, Mavuika will not consume Nightsoul points, and her resistance to interruption will be increased. Additionally, the initial damage she deals through her burst and the pyro-infused normal attack damage through her Nightsoul's blessing will be increased based on the number of Fighting Spirit points consumed. This state lasts for 7 seconds, with Mavuika's elemental burst having a cooldown of 16 seconds. As for her passives, Mavuika's first passive will increase her attack by 35% when a party member triggers a Nightsoul burst, lasting for 10 seconds. Her second passive activates after using her burst, For every point of fighting spirit consumed, the current active character will receive a 0.25% damage bonus increase lasting for 20 seconds. The maximum increase possible is 50%. This damage buff is directly added to your character's damage bonus. However, this damage buff will decrease over the 20 seconds until it reaches 0. Like other Natlan characters, Mavuika has exploration mechanics tied to Natlan, including phlogiston consumption and Nightsoul transmission. Additionally, Mavuika also decreases the Nightsoul transmission cooldown by 20%. With that out of the way, let's quickly go over her signature weapon, 1,000 Blazing Suns. This weapon has a high base attack of 741 and increases crit rate by 11%. As for its effect, if the character wielding this weapon uses their skill or burst, crit damage will be increased by 25% and attack increased by 28% for 6 seconds. If the character's normal or charged attack deals elemental damage, the duration of the effects can be extended by an additional 2 seconds. This can trigger once every second for a maximum bonus extension of 6 seconds, bringing the total possible duration of the effects to 12 seconds. If the character wielding this weapon is in their Nightsoul's Blessing when this effect happens, both the crit damage and attack bonuses will be increased by 75%, bringing the crit damage increase to 35% and the attack increase to 49%. While this weapon looks very strong, it's also not necessary, as there are other options to consider, such as the Natlan craftable Earthshaker if you're using her to apply off-field Pyro, or the Fontaine craftable Tidal Shadow to deal on-field damage. Overall, Mavuika looks very strong and has multiple ways to be played, either as a DPS or an off-field Pyro support, allowing you to much more easily apply Pyro onto enemies for teams like Mualani or Burgeon, while also buffing your active character's damage. Her supporting abilities are decent, not just because you can apply off-field Pyro using Mavuika's skill, but also because she buffs your active character's damage, and can even use the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City set, providing up to 40% bonus damage. However, if you're playing Mavuika in a team with other Natlan characters, you may already have the Hero of Cinder City set on another character, like Chilonen, and the set's effect does not stack. While you can use attack buffing sets like Tenacity with an attack scaling damage dealer, or still use the Hero of Cinder City set to buff other elements in your team. In a team with an HP scaling character like Mualani and a support using the Hero of Cinder City set like Chilonen, the set options on Mavuika are rather limited. For such a team, running a set like Instructor to buff Mualani's Vaporize damage might even end up as the best option. However, we might also be getting new sets that can fill this gap in the next few patches. Mavuika's off-field Pyro applies at a 2-second interval, and while it is consistent and easy to use, it's not as fast as Xiangling's Pyronado. In a Mualani team with Farina, running Mavuika might still not allow you to vaporize every hit consistently, as Farina might end up occasionally triggering Vaporize before Mualani does. And since the off-field Pyro Mavuika provides is not as fast as Xiangling's, she might not end up replacing Xiangling in teams where you need fast off-field Pyro, like International and its variants. As a DPS, Mavuika looks very strong, but filling up her fighting spirit gauge might not be the easiest thing to do without many Natlan characters. While you can get the minimum 100 points to use Mavuika's burst by having a second Natlan character like Chilonen, and Mavuika's own Nightsoul points consumption might be rather easy, getting more points through normal attacking will not be very fast. Getting more points would also allow Mavuika to deal more damage, so that might be where other Natlan characters like Sitlali come into play, allowing Mavuika to gain even more fighting spirit points. In terms of her build as a main DPS, being from Natlan, the Obsidian Codex set will naturally be one of the better options. But that's all for this video. Thank you for making it to the end, and thank you for watching.